Indiana, a state obsessed with sports, but be it football, baseball, or basketball reigns supreme. And the Pacers are obviously at the center of attention at all times for Indiana basketball fans. And after a disappointing end to the past few seasons, after the dismantling of an early 2010s Eastern Conference Finals team, the front office decided that they wanted to contend and they wanted to do it now. And thus, the magical 2017 to 2018 basketball season was started for the Pacers. July 6, the Pacers traded their cornerstone Paul George to the Oklahoma City Thunder for Domantas Sabonis, a then struggling young big, and Victor Oladipo, a then struggling former top 5 pick. The outrage in the media was insane, but the Pacers front office knew what it was doing. While some saw a bag of chips, the front office of the Pacers saw potential superstars. And the offseason did not end there. They signed Darren Collison to a 2-year, $20 million contract and Bojan Bogdanovic to a 2-year, $21 million contract. They traded Amir Predzlik for Corey Joseph, and they signed a then unproven young prospect in Edmund Sumner to a 2-way contract. The 2017 to 2018 season was better than anyone could have imagined. Almost 50 wins in the regular season, Bojan Bogdanovic had become one of the NBA's most efficient three-point shooters, Darren Collison was as sure-handed as it got at point guard, Thaddeus Young improved off a nice 2016 year, and became the David West-style vet for these Pacers. Miles Turner was developing into one of the NBA's top defensive players, and Corey Joseph alongside fan favorite Lance Stevenson provided sparks off the bench. Domantas Sabonis went from a trade throw-in to the 6th Man of the Year candidate, and the man regarded as a bag of chips, Victor Oladipo, went on to lead the NBA in steals, win Most Improved Player of the Year, and earn an All-Star selection, while becoming one of the most clutch players in the NBA. The Pacers were going into a playoff rematch with Cleveland, led by LeBron James. Game 1, Pacers 98, Cavs 80. A huge statement win when most experts ruled out the Pacers in this series, and Oladipo led the way with 32 points and 4 steals. Game 2, Pacers 97, Cavs 100. Bojan Bogdanovic, the NBA's most efficient three-point shooter, went cold, and LeBron went for 40 points, torching the Pacers' defense and sending them a reality check. Game 3, Pacers 92, Cavs 90. On this day, we celebrate Bojan Day. Just a game after one of his worst nights, he comes back with arguably his best, a 30-point clinic while shooting 73% from the field. He was so good that LeBron gave up on guarding him in the final minutes. Game 4, Pacers 100, Cavs 104. The starters couldn't get going, but Domantas Sabonis played very well and tried his best to win the game. But it wasn't enough because Kyle Korver and LeBron James just beat the Pacers the whole way through. Game 5, Pacers 95, Cavs 98. Yes, this is that game. The one that had an uncalled goaltend end up deciding the game as LeBron hit a 3 to win it for the Cavs. While some maintain that since the Cavs won by 3, the 2 from Oladipo wouldn't have mattered. But we all know that if the call went the way that the Pacers wanted it to, Pacers would have been in a better state of mind to play defense on LeBron. The Cavs are leading the series 3-2. There's no way the Pacers beat LeBron James, one of the best playoff players of all time, in an elimination game. There's absolutely no way. Game 6, Cavs 87, Pacers 121. A blowout win. The Pacers blew out the Cavs in an elimination game, and Oladipo was the leader of it all. It is a perfect definition of a Pacers team that made 20-point comebacks a common thing in this season, a team that simply wouldn't quit, and if they lost, they would at least go down fighting. Game 7. Pacers fans sadly know how this one ends. Pacers 101, Cavs 105. Oladipo gave his everything but comes up short. The refs are accused of tampering with this game and others to benefit LeBron. While there might be some truth to that, it doesn't change the outcome. The Cavs team went on to go to the NBA Finals. The Pacers are mad and ready to go back next year and compete. In the 2018 offseason, the Pacers drafted Aaron Holiday and Elijah Johnson, two players who would go on to contribute for the Pacers. Lance Stephenson left for the Lakers, but the Pacers got Doug McDermott on a 3-year, $22 million contract and Tyreke Evans on a 1-year, $12.4 million contract. The Pacers are all in, bringing in reinforcements and trying to make the team deeper and better than it ever was, so that we can't get burnt like years before. 2018 to 2019 season, the Pacers once again win almost 50 games. Bojan Bogdanovic becomes an even better three-point shooter. Thaddeus Young carries his consistency from 2017 to 2018, and Miles Turner leads the NBA in blocks. Darren Collison continues his 2018 pace, continuing to be a sure-handed point guard. Sabonis gets even better, drawing arguments over who should start at power forward amongst the Pacers fan base. McDermott brings in extra scoring off the bench that Lance left, and Victor Oladipo is an all-star. But amidst all this good stuff, there obviously is a twist. January 22nd, 2019. A day that will live in infamy in Pacers fans' minds forever. Victor Oladipo is stretchered off the court and is later diagnosed with a season-ending blown-out knee. This forever alters the course of this franchise and sends the fan base, front office, and coaching staff into turmoil for years to come. Wesley Matthews was signed as a replacement and contributes immediately, producing one of the most memorable performances of these Pacers teams and a game winner over Paul George. The Pacers, despite losing their all-star, still finish as a 5 seed, and they're set to take on the Boston Celtics in the playoffs. Here we go again. The Pacers are promptly swept by the Celtics, and during one playoff game when the Pacers fans have mostly left Bankers Life Fieldhouse, moments before a disappointing loss, the remaining Celtics fans chant, "You don't have Oladipo." There was no postseason glory, only heartbreak for the Pacers. They went all in and failed. Changes are coming, and they're coming now. The 2019 offseason. The Pacers draft center Goga Bitadze, a move that the fan base was split on at first considering they had Miles Turner and Domantas Sabonis. The Pacers trade cash considerations to the Phoenix Suns for TJ Warren, and as soon as it happened, the Pacers fan base was very, very excited because of TJ Warren's prolific scoring ability. The Pacers then pick up TJ McConnell on a 2-year, $7 million deal and sign former two-way player Edmund Sumner to a 3-year, $6.4 million deal. Both of these players would go on to become fan favorites in Indy and try their hardest to help the team win. The Pacers then signed Justin Holiday, older brother of Aaron Holiday, to a 1-year, $4.7 million deal. Justin, mainly known as a journeyman, was seen as a depth piece and nothing more. The Pacers also signed Jakar Sampson to a 1-year vet minimum contract. And then finally, the big acquisition of the offseason. The Pacers got Malcolm Brogdon, a member of the 50-40-90 club, in a sign and trade with the Milwaukee Bucks. His contract? 4 years, $85 million. That money doesn't come in easy in Indiana, and the fans are going to want Malcolm to produce and produce now. But with all these new players, old ones have to leave. And some of the most important players in the past few years for the Pacers would depart in questioning moves. Corey Joseph, Wesley Matthews, and the most heartbreaking out of all of them, Thaddeus Young left in free agency. In a surprise move, Darren Collison retired due to religious purposes. The Pacers' sure-handed point guard was gone, just like that. And probably the most important of them all, Bojan Bogdanovic, an over 40% three-point shooter, and a guy that averaged 18 points a game the past year, was left to walk in free agency by the Pacers. He then signed with the Jazz and is now contributing to a contending team in the West, playing the same role he had with the Pacers. All of these departures are highly questionable, considering the Pacers let most of them happen. But it should be okay because they now have new players that should perform even better. 2019 to 2020 season. Domantas Sabonis becomes an all-star, TJ Warren is an entertaining player and a prolific scorer, Victor Oladipo comes back from his knee injury, not as good as he once was, but still has the full support of Pacers executives and fans. Malcolm Brogdon replaced Darren Collison very well, doesn't have the same chemistry with teammates, but he is statistically better. Miles Turner continues his defensive dominance. Aaron Holiday had a breakout year alongside his brother Justin, who had a breakout year as well. Doug McDermott became a great offensive weapon off the bench. TJ McConnell produced very well on both sides of the ball off the bench, becoming one of the better defenders and playmakers for the Pacers. Edmund Sumner and Jakar Sampson, two guys who were expected to do nothing, play very well and can fill in for injured players, and the team can run just like nothing ever happened. The Pacers finished the COVID-shortened year 45-28 and grab a 4 seed. They will face the Heat. The Pacers, after multiple disappointing seasons, seem poised to make a run. Will it happen? Will the fan base finally get a taste of glory that they've been waiting for a very long time? Big contracts were handed out in the offseason. Loved players were let go. These guys need to perform, or the city of Indianapolis might just combust. The Pacers get swept by the Heat. The games are not even close. The Pacers, while injury-riddled, still should have kept the games at least close. But they just can't. On August 26, 2020, the Pacers fired head coach Nate McMillan. Looking for a faster-paced offense, they hire up-and-coming coach Nate Bjorkgren to be the new head coach. They now get to work acquiring players and once again try to attempt a run. The Pacers signed Justin Holiday to a 3-year, $18 million deal. As their best utility player who can score and defend, he wanted to find a forever home after traveling the league for so long. He believes that he found it in Indiana and wants to stay. It's very rare. Jakar Sampson signed a 1-year vet minimum deal to come back, a very well-deserved contract considering the fact that he contributed so much to the Pacers this past year. The Pacers traded former first-round pick TJ Leaf for Jalen LeCue. The Pacers with that same first-round pick could have had OG Anunoby or John Collins, but instead they drafted TJ Leaf. The Pacers didn't let many people go, but one was let go, Elijah Johnson, who you probably remember as the guy the Pacers drafted in the second round. Well, Elijah was left to walk in free agency. Later that season, Elijah would drop 20 points and 20 rebounds against the Pacers in a revenge game. The Pacers took a huge step back. They had basically everything go against them. Their leading scorer from last season in TJ Warren only played 4 games due to a foot injury. Aaron Holiday completely fell off and just could not do anything effectively. They were so riddled with injuries, they had to call up little-known G-Leaguer O'Shea Brissett and sign him to 2 10-day contracts. While O'Shea did end up being a good player, he earned a 3-year contract. You get what I'm saying. There were some good things. Sabonis was an all-star for the second year in a row. Brogdon filled up the stat sheet, but wasn't really meant to be a ball-dominant playmaking point guard. Miles Turner had his best defensive year ever. Edmund Sumner played very well and became another fan favorite. Justin Holiday continued his good play, and TJ McConnell led the whole NBA in steals off the bench. But the beginning of the end for this Pacers core was set into motion by one trade. The Pacers traded 2-time All-Star and NBA Steals champ and 2018 Most Improved Player Victor Oladipo to the Rockets for Caris LeVert. LeVert would go on to produce very well for the Pacers, but it was never the same. Nobody could really fill that same void that Victor Oladipo left after he made such a big impact on the city of Indianapolis. It was like if Reggie Miller only stayed here for a few years, got injured, and then left. It was heartbreaking. The Pacers then snagged a spot in the play-in tournament and were ready to go in one game against the Charlotte Hornets. The Pacers beat the Hornets by over 40 points. The NBA media was so angry it almost tried to not acknowledge the humiliating defeat that top pick LaMelo Ball faced. Now for Game 2 against the Wizards. Win this, and the Pacers are in the playoffs. and they might just get to make that run that they have been waiting for. The Pacers are then blown out by the Wizards. One game away from the playoffs, and the Pacers can't make it. 2021 offseason, more departures that make the fans very unhappy, with Doug McDermott being signed and traded to the Spurs and Jakar Sampson being left unsigned. Aaron Holiday was traded to the Wizards for a first-round pick that became a young budding star Isaiah Jackson. And probably one of the worst moves ever made by the Pacers, they traded Edmund Sumner after he tore his Achilles to the Nets for virtually nothing, and then as a replacement, signed Brad Wanamaker. Wanamaker went on to be cut in the beginning of the season due to how terrible he was. Pacers also hired Rick Carlisle to be the new head coach, and they signed Torrey Craig to try and aid the defense a little bit. The 2022 season, with contention hopes being dashed quickly and the Pacers trading the rest of the core, it was over. Domantas Sabonis, Justin Holiday, and Jeremy Lamb were all sent to the Kings for young stars in Tyrese Halliburton, a good three-point shooter in Buddy Hield, and Tristan Thompson, who may or may not stick around for long. Karis LeVert was traded to the Cavs for Ricky Rubio and picks, and Torrey Craig was traded back to the Suns for Jalen Smith and a second-round pick. And with the emergence of Dwayne Washington Jr. and Terry Taylor, it is very obvious that the Pacers are tearing down and rebuilding. While the Pacers from years past may be gone, I and other Pacers fans will forever remember them as the fun group that consistently overcame adversity. Oladipo especially will always be remembered as the guy who hit game-winning shots and led the magical year in 2018 and brought so many people joy, but also so much pain. Thus, they will be deemed the Pacers that never were. The Pacers that never lived up to their potential. The Pacers that never won any championships. The Pacers that never stayed healthy. The Pacers that never got favoritism from the NBA. And the Pacers that never got their well-deserved respect. Always to be the bridesmaid, and sadly, never the bride. Will Pacers fans ever get to taste the glory of a championship? I don't know. But one thing I do know is that if the Pacers ever win a championship, there might be a riot of happiness. And maybe that's why the NBA tries to keep them out year after year, because they're afraid of the ramifications that will happen if they finally give Pacers fans a taste of a championship. I'm Limitless Polls. I would like to thank you for watching this so-called documentary and sharing a bit of pain with me while I relive my glorious moments of Pacers fandom. See you guys next time.
Here, and I know your connection to the fans is something special. You've said the last month or two how much it's meant, their support, how much you've heard from them on social media, and every time you go anywhere. Can you describe the feelings you have for this city and these fans?
I'm just thankful, bro. I'm just thankful. Got all the pieces. I'm just thankful.
Thank you very much.